Toxic Relationships: Recognizing, Avoiding, and Handling Difficult People. Written by Mandy Humack. Narrated by Denise L. Fountain. Introduction. Some people are good to get close to, and others are not. Hey, some people are good by nature, but they damage everyone around them, and you want to stay away from them. They can sue you, mess you up, emotionally abuse you, confuse you, pull you away from your family, and take your money, time, kids, or assets away. Staying away from toxic relationships is one thing. Dealing with the person in that relationship once you're in it is another. In this book, you'll find the best ways to cope with toxic people, to survive it mentally, and avoid more people who can pass on the damage that has been inflicted on them. Don't wait. Start reading now. Chapter 1. Is your relationship toxic? A toxic relationship is one in which one partner controls the other via physical, mental, or emotional manipulation. Instead of exhibiting the equality, caring, and mutual self-respect of a healthy relationship, these dysfunctional relationships are characterized by an imbalance of power in which one partner uses a variety of methods to ensure that his or her needs are always met, often at the detriment of the other. When one speaks of abusive relationships, many immediately think of romantic partnerships. While this is certainly a problem in modern society, toxic relationships are not limited to those who are romantically entwined. They also include friendships and working relationships. Any situation in which one individual abuses the bonds with others has potential to be toxic. As illustrated by the situations listed above, there are a number of characteristics which are common in a toxic relationship. While not all of these symptoms need to be present, many will be. One partner is in control of the relationship. He or she decides where they will go, when they will get there, and what they will do upon arrival. This individual makes sure that his or her demands are met using a number of techniques ranging from physical abuse and the threat of physical abuse to verbal bullying, from mental and emotional manipulation. The individual who is not in control feels powerless to confront or contradict the one in power. She will acquiesce to the demands of her friend, despite a lack of interest in the proposed activity. The relationship is a one-way street, with the person in control receiving all of the benefits of the relationship. The powerless individual may find herself acting out in uncharacteristic ways as a result of feelings of helplessness and lack of control. She may participate in activities in a minimal way, performing poorly because her heart is not in it. She may agree to activities, but then complain throughout the time together in an unconscious attempt to shorten the activity. She may engage in passive-aggressive behavior in an attempt to make the person in control uncomfortable. Interactions of this sort often leave the powerless partner feeling emotionally and physically drained. During the activity, there may be a component of fear as she tries to avoid angering the person in control. Fear of retribution, once it has dissipated, leaves one exhausted. The toxic friend: recognizing bullying. The most obvious type of bullying, the one which is most identifiable, is one which carries with it the implied or overt threat of physical violence. This has become a well-recognized topic, often associated with romantic relationships, as well as other interactions. Physical bullying, however, is by no means limited to these areas. There are many instances of friendships which carry with them the threat of violence. It is important to note, however, that there are other, more subtle types of bullying. These may be more prevalent in friendships which meet the definition of a toxic relationship. As with romantic relationships, bullying in a toxic friendship can and often does include an element of emotional manipulation. The techniques of mental and emotional manipulation can vary widely. There is the friend who belittles someone, constantly pointing out her flaws and shortcomings, be they physical, emotional, or a lack of other companions. This person makes her friends feel like she is doing them a favor by participating in activities with them. Without the bully, they insist, you would have no one. Your choice is to be with me or be alone. Then there is a friend who guilt trips others into being with her and doing what she wants to do. She may insist that we always do what you want to do, even though this is not correct. It implies a give and take pattern which does not exist. It is easy to fall into the trap of thinking, if we do what she wants to do this time, we can do something I want to do next time. Unfortunately, there is no next time that fulfills this wish. Another example, there is the friend who may agree with others' wishes only to make their lives miserable. She may allow someone else to choose the restaurant, but will complain about the service, the food, the atmosphere, the parking, the other diners, and anything else which comes to mind. One learns quickly that there is no point in trying to do anything other than what she wants to do. Anything else will simply be a miserable experience. Why are these toxic individuals the way they are? Why are they self-centered, unreliable, and manipulative? It should come as no surprise that there are a number of answers to this question. Bear in mind that the following descriptions do not seek to excuse toxic behavior, only explain it. Some individuals are reacting to stressors in their own lives. When one feels out of control in one aspect of life due to other relationships, occupational demands, poor physical health, or any one of a number of other reasons, she may seek to exert control in another aspect of her life. This may be a temporary solution to a personal feeling of powerless and could be easily redressed. Some people just think they can get away with anything, and you have to draw the boundaries. Others may show the lack of empathy and awareness of others that are traits of true. Others may show the lack of empathy and awareness of others that are traits of true sociopathy. There is no changing these individuals. In fact, any attempts to do so may result in an escalation of toxic behavior. There are those who bully, manipulate, and engage in other negative behavior for the simple reason they have learned that these actions are rewarding. If they push hard enough, they will get what they want. Why bother to enter into a reciprocal exchange when one can act in such a way that they achieve their goals without having to give anything up? Chapter 2. Does it take two to tango? Those who are on the receiving end of this type of toxic behavior may end each interaction with their bullying friend with the same question. Why do I put up with this? Low self-esteem may be part of the answer. If one is told throughout her life that she does not deserve good things, it is only natural that she will come to internalize this idea. The toxic bully reinforces this self-image with every interaction. The first thing that you must realize is that no one deserves to be treated poorly. In one sense, being part of a toxic relationship is actually easy. There is no need to plan for oneself when you know someone else is going to tell you what to do. The rules of the relationship are spelled out quite clearly. You do what the other person says, and you avoid negative consequences. What else is there? If one has been constantly manipulated, whether it is physical or emotional, one comes to question the reality of any other kind of relationship. If you convince yourself that there is some aspect of bullying and manipulation in every relationship, it becomes easy to convince yourself that there is no reason to look for a different relationship. After all, you are already familiar with the devil you know. Stop the music. If you found yourself nodding as you read the previous section, there are some important things which you must know. First off, none of the negative things which you have endured are your fault. The bully is to blame, not you. Secondly, there are different types of friendships out there. It is possible to bond with people because of mutual shared interests. There are people who will engage in mutually beneficial relationships. There are people who will want to be with you because of who you are, not because of what you can do for them. Finally, and most importantly, you deserve better treatment. This may mean confronting the other half of your current toxic friendship or looking for new relationships. There are a number of different tactics for dealing with bullying behavior and changing toxic relationships into healthy ones. Before we address those, we should reinforce two ideas. Know and acknowledge that you deserve better. This is the key to any potential change. Everything discussed below hinges upon the knowledge that you are worth more than what you have been getting. Bullying, physical abuse, emotional manipulation, and other aspects of toxic relationships are unacceptable behaviors. These are things which the bully does, and they are not okay. If you are ready for a better relationship, there are some things which you may want to try. The simplest answer, but potentially the most difficult, is to end the relationship altogether. This means not receiving phone calls, not answering texts, and ignoring any of the manipulative behavior which will restart the cycle of toxicity. It seems like an easy fix, but when one has invested time and energy into a friendship, even one which is not beneficial to one's well-being, it can be difficult to end. This is even more difficult if the relationship has an element of physical abuse. If this is the case, make sure that you are safe and there is no chance of physical repercussion. This may involve outside assistance from family, other friends, or the authorities. There are many programs and shelters which may also provide assistance. Above all, be careful and act in such a way to protect yourself. If you do not wish to end the relationship, it will be necessary to address the issue. Point out the behaviors that are unacceptable. Again, if there is an aspect of physical abuse, take extreme care when doing so. It is likely that the other person will become agitated, angry, or upset during this conversation. Remain firm in your stance that the toxic behavior will not be tolerated. It is also important to remain calm during this discussion. The conversation may start to escalate into an argument. Do not engage the bully in name-calling, threats, or similar behavior. Simply reiterate what needs to change and why. It is extremely important to not backslide. If, after a few weeks of better behavior, the old methods of manipulation begin to creep up again, point them out in a calm, non-aggressive manner. Restate that these are the actions which will not be tolerated. Toxic people or spiritual vampires are exhausting and bring a lot of misery to your life. You just never know what to do or not to do because anything can set them off. They will sap the very life out of you if you are in a relationship with such a person. They are miserable and will try to take you down with them if you let them. Unfortunately, even when they know better, many people choose to stay in toxic relationships, or if they get out, will return to the unhealthy relationship time and time again. If you have been in a toxic relationship so long, or by looking at your dating history, all you see is one toxic relationship after another, you may be asking yourself if it is possible for you to have a healthy relationship. It is possible. Why stay in a toxic relationship when you know better? If you can't remember the last time you had a happy moment with your boyfriend or girlfriend, or the happy moments were so fleeting that you keep hanging on, hoping for more of those moments, why stay in a toxic relationship when you know better? If you can't remember the last time you had a happy moment with your boyfriend or girlfriend, or the happy moments were so fleeting that you keep hanging on, hoping for more of those moments when you know that this is an unhealthy situation, then here are a few factors that may be going on. This is why you remain with someone who is emotionally and many times physically taxing. History. While many of us hate it and fight it, most of the time we grow up and become just like our parents. This is great if our parents are loving, hardworking, strong, etc., as you will probably grow up and display these very same qualities. If, on the other hand, there is a lot of negativity in your parents' life, such as abusive relationships, then this is all you know about relationships, since parents exact the most influence in what a relationship is. If they have loving and healthy relationships, you will naturally gravitate to having loving and healthy relationships. If, on the other hand, your parents are involved in toxic relationships and all you see around you growing up are controlling, abusive, and generally toxic relationships, then that is what you will seek to create in your own life, whether consciously or unconsciously. More often than not, we are the product of our environment. It is important to recognize this pattern in your life, but also remember that you are not doomed to repeat the same patterns over and over again. It is possible to take your life into a new direction of healthy relationships, away from toxic people or spiritual vampires. Number 2, self-worth. Another reason that people remain in toxic relationships or continue the same pattern of getting into unhealthy relationships is that they believe they do not deserve anything better for some reason. In life, you will get what you ask for. You may even say that you want to be in a healthy and loving relationship. But if your life brings you all of these toxic relationships, your inner beliefs about yourself and what you believe about the outside world are the opposite of what you are saying. You need to be very honest with yourself about what you truly believe, as you will repeat those patterns if you don't. The unconscious self and what we unconsciously believe are usually stronger than the conscious beliefs we claim to have. 3, falsehood. When relationships begin, even toxic relationships, everything looks great. A toxic person may be on their best behavior until the relationship begins to mean more to you than anything. Then their true colors are revealed, and by then you are already in too deeply. Since you have a certain image of that person, no matter how false of how he or she was in the beginning and how loving they were, you hold on to false hope that that person can be that wonderful again. Or even worse, you think that you can change them, or even worse, you think that you can change them and prove everybody how wrong they are about your toxic boyfriend or girlfriend. You may think that if you love them enough, change yourself enough, etc., that they will become a better boyfriend or girlfriend. This is a lie to yourself. Nothing you do or do not do will ever be enough or be the answer for their toxicity. The only person that can change another is themselves. If you are looking for a fixer-upper, you are simply saying yes to a toxic relationship after toxic relationship. It is important to remember that people can even change a toxic person, but it is not your job to fix them. And they have to be willing to change and do the work required. They have to do this completely on their own. The men and women who make up a toxic relationship come in many different sizes, shapes, ethnic groups, and educational and economic backgrounds. But the chaos, mayhem, and damage that they all manage to create are pretty much the same across the board. They will have complete control, you will have zero control, and the relationship will be completely out of control. If you are in a toxic relationship with a toxic partner, you will never be able to do anything right according to them, but they believe they are always right. It is always their way or the highway. No ifs, ands, or buts. Nothing is ever their fault. It is always yours. They expect no punishment for their behavior, but will punish you in ways you could never imagine, not even in your worst nightmares. They expect no punishment for their behavior, but will punish you in ways you can never imagine, not even in your worst nightmares, for even the most minimal offense. The punishment never fits the crime, and your soul gets the death penalty every single time. A toxic romantic partner is your judge, jury, and executioner. You can plead your case and argue your side of the story, but your pleas will fall on deaf ears. You hope they will listen to reason, that they will give you a chance to explain, but toxic men and women are never reasonable. A toxic relationship is the worst of the dysfunctional relationships because it is out of control. When you are in a toxic relationship, it is like you are living with an insane person. You will seriously begin to question your own sanity. One of my friends had that happen to him. He still remembers that he questioned all this religious beliefs, his morals, and his regular way of living. They always find a way to justify and rationalize everything, he said, and after a while, you begin to believe them. There is no way to win when you are in a toxic relationship, no matter how hard you try. Your toxic partner will always win, and you will always lose. There is no way to be heard, no matter how loud you yell. They are deaf to you, and anything you say, do, or feel does not matter if it is primarily about you. This relationship is not about you being happy. It is about making your toxic partner happy. There is nothing you can do that will be There is nothing you can do that will not be turned against you. There is nothing you can say that will not be used against you. There is no way to keep the peace when you find yourself in a toxic relationship. Sounds pretty scary, doesn't it? Well, there have been numerous reports of these kinds of behaviors, and they are out there, so you better beware. Examples to make you see if you are in a toxic relationship. If your relationship is dependent on finances, or if you are with someone who depends on you financially and takes advantage of you financially. If your relationship is dependent on finances, or if you are with someone who depends on you financially and takes advantage of you financially, your relationship is toxic and based on money rather than love. If there is a pattern of lying, cheating, stealing, or any behavior or betrayal that they consistently bring to your relationship, you are in a toxic relationship. If your daily mood is affected mostly by how he or she feels that day, or how that person decides you should feel that day, you are in a toxic relationship. If you have too many emotional ups and downs and feel like you must walk on eggshells all the time, your relationship is toxic. If you have to keep the bulk of your relationship a secret from those closest to you, you are in a toxic relationship. If fear of judgment, shame, and not wanting to hear the truth keep you from telling the truth about your relationship, this is a major red flag. If you don't feel free to express yourself verbally or emotionally, you are in a toxic relationship. If you don't feel free to express yourself verbally or emotionally, you are in a toxic relationship. If you are too scared to express your hopes, dreams, goals, wants, needs, and opinions, then this is another huge red flag. If you feel you cannot be yourself for fear of repercussions, you are in a toxic relationship. If you are constantly trying to keep the peace in the relationship at the expense of your own peace of mind, your relationship is toxic. If you always sacrifice your own happiness just so he or she can be happy, you are living with a toxic partner. If abusive language and behavior are common in your relationship, that is a sign of a toxic relationship. Furthermore, if you are being physically abused by your toxic guy, it is time to get out of that relationship. If you cannot stick to a subject when you communicate, or you do not communicate at all, you are in a toxic relationship. If your communication always leads to an argument of some sort, your relationship is toxic. If you can admit to yourself that this relationship you are in has held you from being all that you can be, you can bet it is because your relationship is toxic. If you are abandoning your own dreams and desires to help him or her fulfill his or hers, you are in a toxic relationship. If you are with someone who is totally self-absorbed, selfish, or self-centered, you are in a toxic relationship. You have a toxic romantic partner if you can use the following terms to describe your partner: controlling, narcissistic, overly jealous, manipulative, overly competitive, dependent, needy, or melodramatic. Your partner is very controlling, as in always reading your emails, text messages, or randomly checks up on you. They constantly put you down in front of other people or whenever they get the chance. You are always changing yourself to try and please them. This is a big one. Your partner says he or she loves you, but they act like it's no big deal or that they could care less about the relationship. Chapter 3. There is a way out. The first thing you have to see is that you do have choices. You deserve more and better than your toxic partner is giving you. Low self-esteem or depression may try to keep you in a toxic relationship, but you can get out. Next, start standing up for yourself. Usually toxic partners teach you that everything's your fault. Once you begin to accept that mentality, it is very difficult to leave the relationship or to create boundaries within the relationship that will allow it to get on a positive path. A therapy group may assist you in getting out of a toxic relationship or at least redefining it. You can either get out of the toxic relationship and move on to new, healthier relationships, or you can do what's necessary to heal your current relationship. Honestly, I believe that most relationships can be saved if both parties agree to give it 100% effort. The relationship can be renewed in a healthy way. It may take counseling or some time apart from one another, but it's not impossible. You must first decide that the relationship has to improve or you'll walk away. Don't just talk, but be willing to actually leave. If you aren't at least willing to do that, the relationship will never be healed. Once you are free from the dependency, which is at the root of the toxic relationship, you can positively assert to your partner what you need from the relationship between the two of you. You must clearly state what your needs are. It may be, I need your help, I need your trust, or I need your love. The other person should be informed and convinced that if you don't get what you need, you're prepared to leave the relationship. Healthy relationships are a two-way street. In toxic relationships, there are only one-way streets. You can change that, but you must take your power back from your partner and exercise it. What do you need to know to determine if you're in a toxic relationship? Look for the following. You get verbally insulted by your partner in public. Your partner tells you he or she loves you, but doesn't show it. Your partner attempts to control you by invading your privacy and checking up on you all the time. Your partner does not want you to be independent. You change the way you act just so you can make your partner happy. Toxic people can affect your feelings just by their presence. How do people get into a toxic relationship in the first place? Why do people stay with partners who harm them emotionally and/or physically? A lot of people in toxic relationships had a toxic situation growing up. This means they are recreating that same toxic situation as an adult without realizing it in many cases. So that is all they know. Other people stay in a toxic relationship because they don't think they are worthy of a better relationship. Others want to fix their partner. I've heard this a lot. She's had a troubled childhood. We can help her if we are just nice to her. No, you cannot fix everyone. Don't let them ruin your life if they are dangerous. In order to escape from a toxic relationship, you have to acknowledge that you have options and that it is not final. Once you figure out that you have options, you need to stand up to your partner. Usually in a toxic relationship, you feel like you are to blame for everything. If you start to believe this, you will find it hard to leave the relationship or set limits that are going to make the relationship better, because you don't feel you deserve better. People often find that attending group therapy can help them escape or improve their toxic relationship. Many people are able to get away from their toxic relationships, so there is hope. Many of them go on to have healthy relationships after leaving. Some people, though, continue to stay in the relationship and try to make it better. Almost all relationships can be repaired with hard work and sometimes just with space. Counseling can be helpful. If both of you want to improve the relationship and you are both willing to work at it, it is usually possible. You have to commit to seeing the relationship get better or leave if it doesn't. If you cannot commit to leaving, if the relationship doesn't improve, then the relationship cannot get better. It is that simple. When you are no longer dependent on your partner in a toxic relationship, you can stand up for yourself and get what you need and want. You cannot do this by nagging, though. State your needs clearly and simply. Examples include, I need you to tell me the truth, or I need you to support me. If your partner cannot meet your needs, he or she has to be aware that you have no choice but to leave. Just being around someone like this is terrible and can make you feel sick to your stomach. So the question is, why would someone be in a toxic relationship in the first place? For what reason would someone want to be around a person that hurts them both emotionally and physically? There is a cycle to every toxic relationship. The honeymoon stage, the blow-up stage, and the reconciliation stage. When you first start dating someone, and this goes for most relationships, you are in the honeymoon stage where everything is perfect and glamorous. As a relationship develops, only then do you realize that you may be in a toxic relationship. Once that happens, it may be very difficult to get out. Here are some steps to help you recognize and end a toxic relationship. Acknowledge. Recognize there is a problem. Sometimes it's easy to overlook things, but does he or she always seem to be making up for something he or she has done to hurt you? Take off the pink-colored glasses and see the situation for what it is. You need to admit that a problem exists before you can solve it. Identify. Does he criticize, complain, drain, shame, or blame you for everything that happens in his life? That's only a few of the warning signs of a toxic relationship. If you see that he's exhibiting these signs now while you're dating, trust me, things are not going to get any better in time. As he becomes more comfortable, his true personality. Analyze. You need to decide if the positives of your relationship outweigh the negative. If you don't analyze the relationship and see for yourself that the cost of maintaining the relationship is too great, you may be likely to give in and go back to him or her. Communication. Confront your partner. Try to be neutral. This is not the time for anger on your part. Say what's bothering you about their behavior and how it makes you feel. You can ask them to change the behavior if you want to give the relationship a chance. If not, cut all ties with that person. Separation. Get away. You need to heal. Even a few days in a toxic relationship can cause harm. Regain your happiness and self-esteem. Take time to assess what's important to you. Build a support network of friends and family. Start looking at why you accepted this toxic man into your life. Rules and limits. You need to set clear rules and limits. Set a standard of behavior for yourself and any man you allow into your life. Make a commitment to rebuild your life so that you prevent toxic people from entering it. If that means getting professional help or joining a support group, do it. Do whatever you need to do to ensure that all of your future relationships are healthy. Zero tolerance. In time, your rules and limits will become part of your life. You will have established your boundaries and probably had them tested, but you need to have a zero tolerance policy for toxic people. Never put yourself in another situation where your self-esteem and self-worth are trudged on by anyone. Always be on the lookout for these negative people and be ready to remove them from your life as soon as you can. Following these steps will allow you to end your toxic relationship, regain your life, and be prepared for making healthy relationship choices. Chapter 4. Toxic Relationships and Personality Disorders. Toxic relationships are battlegrounds, mistaken for what is thought of as love, in which the personality disordered and the non-personality disordered come together, intersect, interconnect, and increase each other's pain and suffering no matter how hard they try to make things work. Sometimes both parties in a toxic relationship are in fact personality disordered. The dynamic is such that it is engulfing and persuasive in its ritualistic patterned familiarity. Each person involved in a toxic relationship is an individual, of course, and yet to the observer of the foundational patterns of these relationships, the twists and turns are so predictable that they could well appear as if they'd been scripted and everyone had read the same book kind of thing. What many people don't realize is that when they get wrapped up in the painful chaos of these kinds of relationships, it is the very familiarity of that pain and chaos that paradoxically attracts and repels you, enlivens you and exhausts you, that pulls you in and pushes you out. The legacy of toxic relationship has its roots in the unfinished business of childhood. This legacy endures for years in people's adult lives and relationships because of what are known as repetitive compulsions. There is a connection between those who are raised in toxic, dysfunctional, and abusive homes, who do not develop personality disorders, and those who are raised in toxic, dysfunctional families and do develop and get diagnosed with personality disorder. After all, what is the essential difference between the personality disordered and those who get involved in the toxic relationship, and often trauma-bonded, fantasy-bonded, dysfunctional relationship, which are unfortunately more the norm these days? The only difference in the arena of toxic relationships between the personality disordered and their partners is the personality disorder itself. The backgrounds, the personal lives, and the unresolved past issues often have many common themes and common manifestations of woundedness in varying degrees. This is why the dance is such that many people with or without a personality disorder will go through series of these type of toxic, dysfunctional, and chaotic relationships. The legacy of unresolved childhood pain and attachment issues is this dance of codependency that reflects toxic love and not healthy love. Often those in these toxic relational dynamics really do not have a mature understanding of what healthy love is. The legacy of toxic relationships starts before we even realize that there is a devastating problem or untold emotional pain and further abuse and psychological woundedness. The legacy of toxic relationships is carried from the past by so many people now that what is seen when they meet each other and begin to fall in love is really not about love. It is really about that familiarity to a parent whose love one was never able to obtain. That's what the chase is about. That's why it all feels so compelling, and the rush to love, really it's love-hate, is on to get into a relationship that is really going to be very painful and an emotional war. The other facet of the legacy of toxic relationships, of course, is the damage done and the untold pain suffered in these relationships as adults. If you are in a toxic relationship now or have been recently and you are still hurting, angry, or grieving, ask yourself what it was that was so familiar, that hooked you, that you ignored your own instincts, your own intellectual reasoning, your own spiritual knowing. What was so compelling? What was so compelling to or for you that you ignored all the red flags? What is it from your own past that led you to enmesh with someone in a situation in which you simultaneously handed yourself over to someone else and threw yourself away? Are you afraid of being alone? When you find the answer to that question, you will discover the true nature of the legacy of toxic relationships from your past. You will also discover how and why you made the choices that you did. You will make a connection back to the pain that you can gain more awareness about, grieve, express in healthier ways, and learn to let go of it. Then you will know better. When you know better, you will do better. Your understanding will have been hard fought for, and you will learn that you need to learn in time. Much of what people have to learn to free themselves from toxic relationships and their legacy includes boundaries, the difference between abuse and respect, the difference between mutuality and broken mutuality, surrender to the reality that the only person that you can change is yourself. The reality for those who are the non-personality disordered side of toxic relationships is that there is something about your experience in life that led you to make what you now know were self-defeating, self-destructive choices. Many non-personality disordered people end up trying to rescue the toxic person in their lives because they are trying to avoid their own loss. The legacy of toxic relationships is all too often wrapped up in what becomes a blame game. The dilemma of escape is really what should be of paramount importance. It is only after these kinds of relationships have been ended that each person can go their own way and really get their own healing work done. The legacy of toxic relationships is one that compounds what is already unresolved pain from your past, whether you are aware of this or its roots or not. The reality of this compounded legacy is that as you try to escape the relationship and its pain, you seek relief while paradoxically needing to get in touch with the source of your unresolved pain. The legacy of these relationships is very painful. The legacy of these relationships, over and above the pain, the drama, and the endless and equally compelling chaos, many people become addicted to the chaos without realizing this, is the reality of the lessons that you need to seek after by asking yourself the right questions. Is the reality of the lessons that you need to seek after by asking yourself the right questions so that you can find the answers you need to heal. The legacy of any and all toxic relating is deep, profound, and can be lasting if it is not actively healed and recovered from. To heal and to recover both the personality disordered and the non-personality disordered, one must look within and stop blaming with each other. The legacy of toxic relationships is that the love perceived and sought after wasn't healthy love at all. It was toxic love. This toxic love speaks loudly to the intrapsychic woundedness of the inner child in both the personality disordered and the non-personality disordered. Each must do his or her own work to heal and recover. Each has issues that, while similar, are not exactly the same, but then when mixed surely make for an intensity that is by its very chaotic and dramatic nature toxic, compelling to the point of all-consuming and extremely dangerous. Toxic relationships are dynamics and include a high degree of codependency that can even be addictive. Addictive in that focusing on and trying to change or rescue someone else is not only self-defeating, it is self-sacrificing in ways that will leave you emotionally and psychologically suffering and out of balance. Perhaps you've been thinking about leaving a toxic relationship for a while. Maybe you've broken up before and gotten back together again, then broken up again. You just want the pain to stop, or some healthy changes to occur. If you've determined that the relationship has gotten too toxic and want to take steps to separate and break up, some of these steps will help you in the process. Don't let fear dictate your choices. Fear can prevent us from making healthy adjustments for ourselves, even positive changes that bring life and fruitfulness. Fear is often nothing more than false evidence appearing real. It can scare us from making the right choices for ourselves. Sometimes the pain of staying in the same dysfunctional relationship is worse than making those adjustments. By that time, we realize we didn't have to stay locked in the prison of our own making. Think about the benefits of ending a toxic relationship. Write them down and keep them in front of you. Proactive and other social support. This is actually vitally important when it comes to ending a toxic relationship. You will likely be more vulnerable, so having a healthy relationship in your life is vital. You will likely be more vulnerable, so having healthy relationships in your life is vital. Reconnect with family and your friends. If you've lost touch with family because of the unhealthy relationship, see if you can salvage those relationships. If you are a person of faith, reconnect with your church family. You'll be a lot more empowered and less isolated when you do. It's easy to go back and forth about your decision to end a toxic relationship if you remain isolated. So that's why you want to really fortify yourself with supportive people. You might even consider some counseling while you are making this transition. Forgive yourself and others. When things don't go well in a relationship and you don't understand why things just aren't working out right, it's easy to blame yourself for what happened. This is especially true when you feel you did what you could to make the relationship work. It's really important not to condemn yourself or beat yourself up. It takes two to make a relationship work. Forgive yourself, forgive others. It keeps your heart and your conscience clean and clear. Remember that forgiveness and reconciliation are not the same thing. Anger and bitterness about what didn't work out will never bring true healing. Keep in mind what didn't work, learn from it. Healing the shame. When a relationship doesn't work out, it's easy to experience shame or guilt feelings. This reason alone is often a good one for seeking a therapist to work with. When shame goes unaddressed, one can often find other means for validation to avoid or decrease feelings of shame, even if they are destructive choices. Remember that ending a toxic relationship is a journey, even as it is a one-time decision. Sometimes you'll need to make that decision when you can feel yourself wavering and tempted to go back to the unhealthy relationship. The most important question is why you are doing so. It will take some time for you to heal, and sometimes you might need to cut off all contact with someone toxic. Recognize the 7 aspects of a toxic relationship pattern can help you see what is happening in your life and get out of continual frustration, pain, and sadness faster. 1. Repetitiveness. You have been involved in more than one relationship that initially offered the conditions of hope but failed to live up to its fulfillment. The people may be different, but the beginnings and endings are the same again and again. 2. A conflict. No matter how good the feelings are initially, deep down inside, you knew and felt that there was something about the relationship that made you uncomfortable or left you feeling anxious, uncertain, worried, jealous, distressed, etc. 3. A bodily sensation. You experience a discomforting but familiar biological response that is triggered by something the other person said or did. For example, your anxiety level jumping 10 points, a sudden knot in your stomach, or pain in your forehead. 4. A feeling of deep loss. When a relationship ends, you are left with a sense of loss of something or rather the hope of something. You experience emptiness where you once felt a real connection, no matter how infused with uncertainty, shame, humiliation, pain, or suffering the relationship was. 5. Obsessing. You've thought about it or actually believe that the rejecting response of the other is due to your own words or actions driving them away, but you still entertain the notion that you can somehow transform the other person into the loving, accepting person that you are so desperately and obsessively seeking. 6. An underlying vulnerability. Your sense of your own self-worth is threatened, and you feel bad in the sense that as much as you have functioned as a resource for others and have done well where the use of good coping and conflict resolution skills are maximized, you feel overwhelmed and vulnerable. 7. Disowned parts of self. Underneath the surface, there are deep roots from which your patterns have grown. These imprints are like fuel that intensifies a negative bonding pattern. 7 insights to internalize. 1. You pick the wrong person because you expect him or her to change once you're married. The classic mistake: never marry potential. The golden rule is, if you can't be happy with the person the way he or she is now, don't get married. As a colleague of mine so wisely put it, you actually can expect people to change after they're married, for the worse. So when it comes to the other person's spirituality, character, personal hygiene, communication skills, and personal habits, make sure you can live with these as they are now. 2. You picked the wrong person because you focus more on chemistry than on character. Chemistry ignites the fire, but good character keeps it burning. Beware of the "I'm in love" syndrome. I'm in love often means I'm in lust. Attraction is there, but have you carefully checked out this person's character? Here are 4 character traits to definitely check for. Humility. Does this person believe that doing the right thing is more important than personal comfort? Kindness. Does this person enjoy giving pleasure to other people? How does he or she treat people she or he doesn't have to be nice to? Responsibility. Can I depend on this person to do what he or she says he or she's going to do? Happiness. Does this person like himself? Does he or she enjoy life? Is this person emotionally stable? Ask yourself, do I want to be more like this person? Do I want to have a child with this person? Would I like my child to turn out like him or her? 3. You choose the wrong person because you get intimately involved too quickly. Intimacy before the commitment of marriage can be a big problem because it often precludes a fully honest exploration of important issues. Physical involvement tends to cloud one's mind, and a clouded mind is not inclined to make good decisions. It is not necessary to test drive in order to find out if a couple is physically compatible. If you do your homework and make sure you are intellectually and emotionally compatible, then you don't have to worry about it. Of all the studies done on divorce, incompatibility in the intimate arena is almost never cited as a main reason why people get divorced. 4. You pick the wrong person because you do not have a deeper emotional connection with this person. To evaluate whether you have a deeper emotional connection or not, ask, do I respect and admire this person? This does not mean, am I impressed by this person? We are impressed by a Mercedes. We do not respect someone because they own a Mercedes. You should be impressed by qualities of creativity, loyalty, determination, etc. Also ask, do I trust this person? This also means, is he or she emotionally stable? Do I feel I can rely on him or her? 5. You pick the wrong person because you choose someone with whom you don't feel emotionally safe. Ask yourself the following questions. Do I feel calm, peaceful, and relaxed with this person? Can I fully be myself and express myself with this person? Does this person make me feel good about myself? Do you have a really close friend who does make you feel this way? Make sure the person you marry makes you feel the same way. Are you afraid of this person in any way? You should not feel you need to monitor what you say because you are afraid of how the other person will view it. If you are afraid to express your feelings and opinions openly, there's a problem with the relationship. Be on the lookout for someone who is always trying to change you. Another aspect of feeling safe is that you don't feel the other person is trying to control you. Controlling behaviors are a sign of an abusive person. Be on the lookout for someone who is always trying to change you. There is a big difference between controlling and making suggestions. A suggestion is made for your benefit. A control statement is made for their benefit. 6. You pick the wrong person because you use a relationship to escape from personal problems and unhappiness. If you are unhappy and single, you'll probably be unhappy and married too. Marriage does not fix personal, psychological, and emotional problems. If anything, marriage will exacerbate them. If you are not happy with yourself and your life, take responsibility to fix it now. You'll feel better. 7. You pick the wrong person because he or she is still emotionally attached to an ex, and now you're involved in a triangle. To be triangulated means a person is emotionally dependent on someone or something else while trying to develop another relationship. A person who hasn't fully separated herself emotionally from a former partner is a classic example of triangulation. Does he or she talk constantly about the horrible things her spouse has done? Does he or she constantly tell you how much their partner wants them back? Is the ex a reoccurring topic of conversation? Are you often asked to judge the behavior of someone you've never met? If you answer yes to any of these questions, then person cannot be fully emotionally available to you. You will not be their number one priority, and that's no basis for a marriage. For more books about personality disorders, I recommend these, which go deeper into the specific symptoms and treatments of various disorders. Obsessive-compulsive disorder, narcissists, borderline disorder, bipolar disorder 1, bipolar disorder 2, schizophrenia. Chapter 5. Types of toxic or dysfunctional relationships. Difficult or toxic relationships do not at first appear to be toxic because the culture has taught us to mate based on the idea of love. People tend to see and believe what they want to see and believe about the other person and the relationship. In some cases, the people involved in these toxic relationships are in so deeply that what to some would appear toxic feels normal to them. See if you can relate to any of these types of toxic relationships. 1. The parent-child relationship. People who get into parent-child relationships have an intense need to recreate or compensate for the relationship they had with their own parent. Regardless of the psychological reasons behind this kind of relationship, in most cases, the substantial reparenting arrangement tends to reinforce the dysfunctional behavior, enabling fantasy, oblivious, confusion, guilt projection, double mind messages, hostility, and chronic negativity. You know this is not how a healthy relationship should be, but you have no idea how to make it right, or even want to make it right. Something about the toxicity of the relationship feels so familiar, even safe in a twisted kind of way. 2. The martyr relationship. This is where someone sacrifices and gives up everything, including their mental, emotional well-being, in the name of love. In your craving to be loved, you give and nurture to a degree where it's controlling and unhealthy, because you believe that being a martyr to love makes you a lovable person. You tell yourself your love is unconditional, but actually it is very conditional and selfish. Even when the relationship is abusive, you feel that you must really love this person to sacrifice and give up everything, though you can't understand why you'd love someone who treats you badly. 3. The change agent relationship. Most people who get into these relationships are convinced on some level that they can really make the other person a better person. Even faced with the reality that the other person will not change, you can accept and break free of the illusion of the power to change someone that you have created. In some way, you actually feel responsible for the other person and see leaving as abandoning him or her. But as they say, a man who marries a woman to educate her falls a victim to the same fallacy as a woman who marries a man to reform him. 4. The sponsor relationship. In this relationship, one person provides a sense of financial security and the other person feels obligated to the person who pays the bills. The only reason you are still in the relationship is because you, 1, have the obligation to support the other person, 2, have no other way to support yourself, or 3, both of you feel entitled to the investment that you have made in the relationship and won't let the other person have it all. But because the relationship is not about love, rage attacks, lies, cheating, etc., are the menu of the day. The only thing you seem to agree on is the color of money. 5. The exotic relationship. People obsessed with exoticness and foreignness often confuse love with obsession. They seek out a man or woman specifically because he or she is from a certain race, religion, or culture, or because they're obsessed with a particular accent, look, or other characteristic associated with someone from a particular race, religion, or culture, etc. Even though the relationship feels exciting in many ways, almost all of your fights are about race, religion, or culture. It's always about one or the other feeling lonely, isolated, unconfident, unloved, or like the outsider, especially around the other's socio-cultural networks. The rebel relationship. Rebel-type daters choose a partner who is exactly the opposite of everything their families and friends would want for them. You may be merely angry with your parents, family, or social network, or attempting to establish a sense of your own identity. You get a kick from watching your parents, siblings, or friends' reaction to your partner more than you actually get from the relationship. The relationship is simply entertainment, and your partner the pawn in your reality TV show. 7. The social network relationship. This is when one or both people get into a relationship to have access to the other's social circle, widen their own social circle, or advance themselves up the social ladder. At first glance, everything looks picture perfect, yet digging deeper reveals that you are a more extensive of a calculated social equation, that you are a mere extension of a calculated social equation. Though this is a touchy subject that neither of you necessarily wants to talk about, one or both of you somehow manages to never let the other person forget who is dating up or dating down, who married up or married down the social ladder. 8. The neutered relationship. This kind of relationship is usually based on a great friendship, a close and mutual bond cemented by many years of being each other's best friend. The sexual attraction chemistry may or may not have been there in the initial stages, but you feel obligated to stay with each other because you see eye to eye in almost all areas of your lives. Although there is no sexual attraction between the two of you, and you are not even physically sexually intimate, one or both of you feels jealous and rejected if the other is even sexually attracted to someone else and feels betrayed and hurt if the other even mentions that he or she has sexual urges. You feel that if you don't feel like having any or can't have any, neither should you associate with that person. The truth is, however, that you have a choice and that you don't have to let any outside pressure, urges, or insiders tell you what to do. Conclusion. Simply realizing that you have choices and that you deserve happiness will help you start the process of pulling yourself away from a toxic relationship. Next, you must start standing up for yourself. Your partner may have put it in your head that it is all your fault. Once you are convinced, you may find it difficult to walk away. You must now set new limits so that your relationship may begin to heal. You may still be able to salvage your relationship if both you and your partner are willing to make an effort. You can still renew your bonds toward a healthier relationship. Your relationship might require counseling to help from an outside source. Sometimes you might find it best to simply walk away. Be strong and make sure your partner understands that you are willing to walk away if things don't change. You must take matters into your own hands and believe you deserve a better relationship. Every once in a while, you may realize that you're in a toxic relationship with another person. The relationship is dishonest, manipulative, anxiety-producing, and unfulfilling. In this case, it's time to consider ending it. I know that many people have the tendency to try and save or fix a toxic relationship, whether it's a friendship or a romantic one. This can be a good strategy to try at first, but sometimes you need to face the harsh reality that a relationship cannot be saved, and the best course of action is to end it. This has been Toxic Relationships: Recognizing, Avoiding, and Handling Difficult People, written by Mandy Humack, narrated by Denise L. Fountain. Copyright 2017 by Mandy Humack. Production copyright 2017 by Mandy Humack.